The following are a few helpful tips as you get started using Jackalope. To begin, you'll enter the URL that you're given to go to your Jackalope website. And initially you'll see here the Jackalope home button, which gives you the version and the database that you're attempting to connect to. And this black bar will include information that changes as you log in and navigate around Jackalope, but the Jackalope home button will always be here in the top left. New users can register for an account by clicking the register button here and entering the sponsor code that they're given, which will be explained in a different video. Or you can use the email as the login and password that you're either given or that you signed up for through self-registration. As a note, we find that Chrome plays best with Jackalope, and the most current version of Chrome or Firefox or Internet Explorer is highly recommended if you don't have the most current versions of those. But if you're able to start with Chrome, that's what we would recommend. So after logging into Jackalope, you'll see there are some general themes throughout the interface that'll be helpful to you. If you ever seem to get stuck or a screen you're viewing seems to lock, or you maybe have been unceremoniously logged out, you can always come back and hit the Jackalope Home button and it will bring you back to this main starting screen here. You can see here I'm logged in and I can click here to log out if I'd like. When viewing various grids, as we call them in Jackalope, that list information for you about traffic sites or data or reports or binding rules, you'll see that most grids are built in a way similar to this. You can double click on a row to view or edit. Down in the bottom left is a column chooser, which will give you all of the different columns that you can pick from in whatever grid you're looking at. And these can be rearranged however you'd like them. Perhaps you don't want to see the by number or the station columns, and you actually would like to see the time zone up at the top. And let's imagine that you'd like to see the seasonal factor group in this list, so you can click to add it here. And once you're finished adding, removing, rearranging, you can click OK. And then your grid will automatically be refreshed to show you here we moved time zone and we got rid of some other columns here. Those settings in each grid are user specific, so you can feel free to set up grids in a way that works best for you, and that won't affect the way the grids appear to anybody else. This is just for your user. You can also export all of the grids by clicking on one of these export formats here. And what will be exported in this case would be all 1092 of lines here in this grid. I can do it in Excel, for example, and I'll get 1092 different lines exported exactly like this with all of these same titles at the top of your export. Another helpful tip is if you come up to the Jackalope home page here, recall that if you click it now, it will just take us back to our initial login page. But if you middle mouse click over the Jackalope home button, you will get a second or third or fourth tab that's already logged you into Jackalope that you can continue to do other things with. This is helpful, for example, if you're viewing data in one screen and then in another screen you'd like to look at quality control parameters to do some comparisons, and then maybe a third tab you'd like to be looking at reports, and you can toggle between all of these. At the top here you'll also see which is your active name convention that you're using. So this will become important when you're viewing data within files submitted or when you're viewing reports. If you would like to search for a report by site, then you'd need to be in the site name convention. If you'd like to look for a particular report by using the station, then you'd need to select that as your name convention. So keep this in mind as you're searching around through Jackalope. You can also do the control and the plus and minus sign to size this page here. You'll see a control minus will bring my sizing down quite a bit, and Control plus will bring it back up. And again, this is specific to you. This is a browser setting, so this is my setting within Chrome, and this won't affect anybody else's use of Jackalope. Another bit of helpful information when you're using any of the grids is the search feature within each of the columns. Some columns can be searched as if they are alphanumeric, so it depends on what your choices are here, how you're able to search. But for example, if I wanted to search for a site that begins with 152 and I hit enter, then I'll get my one site that starts with 152. Alternately, if I wanted to search for sites that include 152 somewhere in them, I'll get 152 Street, or I also get here King George Highway that includes a 152 in this location. So those are some choices you can do through searching through columns. You can do an X to clear out your search and then be returned to your full grid. You can also sort in ascending or descending order by clicking these ascending descending buttons here. Currently there's no way to do a sort at the same time as another sort of doing multifunction. So if I wanted to search for Young Road sites, let's pick a different one. Let's search for sites that just contain the letters YOU. I'll get quite a longer list here. I can then search also for a site that contains Route 16, and we'll see I'm limited now just to the one. There would not be another way to search for two things within sites. So if I wanted YOU sites that had NN, I wouldn't be able to do that in this case. I'm only allowed to search by one thing at a time per column, but you certainly can eliminate columns by searching through each of them individually and then sorting at the same time, but still retaining the YOU portion. Anytime files are created for you, either through an export or through a grid export or a federal export or a report that's generated for you, your browser will interact with you to ask you where you would like to save the file or how you want to interact with the file itself. So for example, let's imagine I'm going to export just these few sites here by clicking Excel. So I narrowed down the sites I'm interested in, I clicked Excel, and I was given this export here. That is because I told Chrome that I always want to view files that are created for me first, and that I would like to have those files saved for me also into my temp directory. When you begin using Jackalope, you will be asked the first time you create a file that pops up for you, would you like to open this type of file? Always save it and open it, and those settings can be changed in your browser settings, not as a Jackalope setting. This is a security feature of Jackalope because it's important to have web applications not be allowed to make decisions onto your own desktop. So we want to make sure that you're giving Jackalope permission to give you a file, and then therefore you're going to save the file or view the file for security purposes. As you begin using Jackalope, if you end up setting up your traffic site grid in a particular way, how you like to view operator messages in a specific way, the way you like to view the file submitted grid, let's just say I only want to use the LJ user, so anything that the LJ user has submitted here in the file submission. And these are the type of settings that I typically like to use. I can log out of Jackalope, log back into Jackalope, go back to file submitted, and it will have retained, just for my user, the fact that I would like to see only the LJ Wilkinson submitted by files here. If that's something that you've set up and you've decided you don't like the way you've done it, you'd like to clear just your Jackalope cache, not clear your browser cache, because obviously that would clear your saved passwords and other browser information that you've saved over the weeks and months. You can go to Security, Users, find your user, and for people with limited access to various security features, they will only have user profile. So for this example, we'll do both. I can click on Users, find my user, scroll down to the bottom, and click Clear Jackalope Cache. That will simply clear Jackalope's memory of how I prefer to view various grids and things like that. For users who have more limited permissions, they will have the user profile button here. They only can see their username and password, and they can still clear Jackalope cache. Some users with the most extreme limitations on their permissions won't even be able to change their user or password. But this is available to you if you should ever need to clear your Jackalope cache without wanting to clear your Chrome or Internet Explorer, your browser cache. One last thing I'll mention today is when you initially begin logging into Jackalope, your browser might ask you if you would like to have your password saved. You can scroll here and say, remember me, and set this to on, and then Jackalope will remember you when you return. And if you would like to have your password automatically filled out by Chrome, for example, when Chrome pops up and asks you, would you like me to save this password, you can say yes at that point. However, any other time you're interacting with your password, other than in the first login screen, you do not want to allow your browser to save your password. The reason for that is all passwords are encoded by Jackalope and are not available to anybody. So for safety reasons. So nobody would be able to double click on my user and have any indication of what my password actually is. If I were to save my password, change and save a password here, Chrome will ask me, do I want to save my updated password? And if I say yes, it's going to save a long line of encrypted characters rather than my actual password. So just be careful when you're allowing your browser to save your password to only do so from this initial login screen. That way your browser will know that this is the actual password you want saved, not an encoded set of characters. That's all for today, and I hope this helps.